Hello everybody, Rufi here with a play and explain video for ValueHeavy. This time again on 10NL, trying to use a red line aggressive approach here, as always exploiting mistakes that we can see in recreationals, in regular timing tells, sizing tells, etc. Pretty much how I would be approaching if I would play on 10NL on micro stakes myself. And yeah, as always, let me know if you would like to see, well, what stakes you would like to see, if you want to see different formats. Let me know in the comments or on Discord, and without further ado, let's get into it. I'll just put a couple of easy folds. King deuce, I will be opening blind v blind. Again, I don't have my HUD turned on. We'll just try to take the situations as they come. These low disconnected boards, really easy range checks for the small blind. They definitely hit the big blind a lot better, and if you want, you can just simplify the strategy there and range check these boards. And even against such a small bet, I think we fold with call if he had like the gut shot as well going with our hand, but I don't think we can call a king high with just a backdoor flush draw. Although if we call, it is gonna be against this very small sizing. Here blind v blind against the recreational, I don't mind opening close to 22. Just, you know, they have the auto fold button on very often. Here we face a co-call and a 3-bet and a co-call against this large sizing. I don't want to do any calling. I think I'm just gonna 4-bet my hand a bit deeper, so I don't mind sizing up to something around this. Also with the cold calling, then there's just so much dead money that we can pick up, and I don't really want to play calls when we get such a bad sizing, such a bad price. Interesting that the second guy now called after cold calling the flop. Probably gonna start out with a small c-bet and continue barreling a lot. Same on the left side, and we just take it down, which is fantastic. So let's actually bring the replayer up down here. Perfect. And we can talk about this on the right hand side. We bet once on the flop. On the turn, I'd rather check back and bluff catch the river. There's some merit in betting again to get value from a hand like Queen 10. Now this isn't great when he pots it. Let's see, do we have any note here? Timing tells. So he bets quick as well. Any jack, any 10 we lose to. He could be bluffing lower pocket pairs, although that's quite tough for maybe a recreational to spot that quickly. And then he has ace-x, which probably just check. So I actually think on this board, I don't mind folding versus the very quick pot size bet. On the left hand side, we checked against two recreational and a low disconnected board, and the turn is brings even more disconnected. It's gonna hit both the button and the small one quite well. So we're just gonna get out there multi-way when they start putting money in. The ace-4 here, I will 3-bet, although against the recreational I don't mind also just calling. And on the left hand side, I will also go for a 3-bet. Gonna start with a small bet here against the recreational, mainly barreling when we pick up equity. And on the left hand side, don't mind going either for a bet or for a check raise. I'll go for the check raise this time. On the right hand side, we didn't pick up any equity. Our hand is quite down. We'd rather barrel ace king, king 10, ace 10, so on. On the left hand side, as we said, we will go for the check raise with our ace king here. He snap checks back, which makes me tempted to bluff this on the river, thinking he's gonna be too capped here, and we can definitely have some queen x at check. Left hand side, here we check raised. The turn we didn't pick up any equity. He called rather quickly. It actually improves his range quite a bit, so I don't mind going for a check and barreling with my hands that have more equity. He then snap checks behind, which is interesting. Again, makes me want to bluff this spot more often. Although we could still be ahead, but I think sizing in a way that we could still represent the jack or better here puts a lot of pressure on his pocket pairs. So interesting spot in both of these situations. I probably shouldn't be bluffing on the river. Ace king is probably trying to show down. Having one diamond is not great, and obviously in the ace forehand we had absolute air. We block some of the bluffs, like some of the folds, like ace 10 of spades, for example. We don't have a club in our hand, but in both situations they were checking back the turn so fast, where, you know, if they had 10-9 they would always consider betting, would always bet. If they had a set, they would probably also always bet. Even a queen is very often at least thinking about whether they want to bet or not. So just very unlikely that both players have a strong hand in either case. The same goes for the hand where we had ace king, which was here. I hope this is not too small. Where we check raise the flop, kind of putting pressure on one pair hands and still being ahead of flush draws, and then he snap checked behind on the turn. Sure, he could trap a boat, but even then he would at least think about trapping or not. So again, I think he's going to be quite capped there. We'll 3-bet again on both tables here. Queen jack is a bit lower, is a bit low down our 3-betting. Sorry, it's a low frequency 3-bet, but he opens into recreational, so he might be opening a bit wider. On the left hand side we have an easy fold against the 4-bet. Obviously we have a low connected board that is monotone, so we'll just start off with a check. Again, pay a lot of attention. Quite a quick check behind. He could have 9s, he could have 8-9 here, but again I think we are just gonna start out betting here. We have some equity now, drawing to the 10. We put pressure on one pair hands, and this is, you know, a very great run out to bluff again. Don't think I need to go larger here. Just mainly trying to make him fold one pair hands. On table 2 we get let into after we ISO'd. Just gonna raise this up, and we do face the river raise, and yeah, we just have to fold our hand. But I think it's like, if he has hand like 7-6, 5-4, maybe pocket 6s, those hands would probably very likely fold. On the turn he donks again, quite small. Gonna keep raising. My hand I think is still strong enough here. There's a very unfortunate run out here. We just check and hope we win against the hand like king 9 sometimes, although this run out is not great, but I don't think he's ever folding a straight or even king queen. So we just check it, and this time he had king jack, so he was actually leading out with a stronger 2 pair. Usually these leads are quite on the weaker side, so I think yeah, charging his pair plus draws here that he has on a turn like king 10, ace queen, I think is better than just simply calling. Although our hand definitely does get quite marginal. 8-4, I think with this rake structure is just a fold. Maybe at higher rake lower rake structures we can call it. And here in the ace jack hand, our timing read could have been off. Could have also been that he, you know, turned pocket 9s there. Maybe rivered something like king 9 of hearts, even though that's quite a thin raise. Aces here on table 1. I will just start off with a check on a board that's more favorable for the imposition player. And left hand side, I'm not too thrilled about 3-betting, getting this in 20 big blind deep, so I think I'll just make it tight fold. And here we have the option between block betting or checking. I think I prefer block betting. We still get called by one pair hands, I think a 10 would bet the flop quite often. Actually, river, I'm gonna go for another block bet. Now his pairs got counterfeit. His two pairs, some of them got counterfeited. So I think we can go for value here and fold quite comfortable to the raise. We could also check, but this is quite a tough situation for him to have enough bluffs. Some king queen, but that's about it. So I think we can just bet fold this. Might seem quite thin, but I think on this run out it's fine to go for 2 block. And the idea here is also on the turn, even if we have ace and he has a hand like pocket 5, he still has some outs to chop on the river. So all hands have equity, and therefore betting any hand makes a lot of sense because he denies some equity. Force you obviously complete. Flop bottom set, that's great. 4-way here against definitely 2 recreationals here from MP and small blind. We see checking around, which is interesting. So the guy that can still have a strong range is EP. So the question is, do we want to check to them or check or lead out ourselves? I think I'm such a draw heavy board, I'd rather lead out myself. We do in fact see him calling quite quickly. Everybody else folds. Queen 10 now gets there. I think our hand is still strong enough for probably a pot size bet, maybe a bit larger still. Yeah, something along those should be fine. We slide over bet and he does fold. Ace 6 here on the left, we have the option of checking back or betting small against a small blind flat. Depends on how aggressive we think he is. I don't mind starting with a small bet, letting him float his ace high hands that we can cool on the turn and getting some protection from random overcards that do fold. Force I will just be folding once I face a 3x. If they would go smaller, I could consider calling. You see now I half pot donk. It's gonna be very bluff heavy. If I didn't have showdown value, I'd mainly raise, but with showdown value, my plan is to call and mainly call rivers. This is not great anymore, of course. A lot of his natural bluffs get there, but I think given the sizing, he can still have 8, 9, 10, 9, maybe random, you know, ace 5 hands that are bluffing. So I think we do just flick in another call and we beat pocket 5s. On the right hand table, we start off with a small c-bet. We definitely could also go for a check raise. And on the blank, I will go for an overbet with my open-minded straight draw. Let me take it down. So here the idea is definitely don't get, like, as we see, this is very mergy, bluff heavy, like he's value betting on a turn and bluffing on the river. The half for the sizing is really weak. If I would have faced a pot size bet on the river, I'd probably just let go of my hand and call hands that are like a king, 2 pair, or at least, you know, a hand with a diamond in my hand blocking some of his stronger hands. Just being more selective about my bluff catcher, while if he goes this half pot sizing, I'm pretty much just calling anything that can beat his bluffs, which we have to be careful, right? Like, if he's bluffing 5s, obviously we don't want to call hands like ace 3. Here we face a 3 bet, may just look to fold, although we are deeper, so don't mind going for a 4 bet, just thinking he's gonna be playing a bit too passively against the 4 bet, and once we're deeper, we'd rather 4 bet a hand like ace 4 suited than maybe a hand like ace jack offsuit. Just because it plays better post. King jack here, calling against EP. Good flop for us, so I wouldn't expect too many c bets. Once he checks back, I think we can stab quite aggressively, but once he bets, our hand is just a fold. Queen 9 would be the bottom of my opening range unless I expect my players are super weak. Could expand, but I think it's going to be a bit too loose. And yeah, just sizing up there because we're deeper. In case that wasn't clear. Ace jack, I will be 3-betting. Recreational guy going to 3.5 is not great. But but I will still 3-bet. We're not that deep, so I don't think I have to size up here. You see a snap call. Interesting here. The question is, do we want to go small, let him float some random air, or do we rather go for 2-street game, go half pot and jam the turn? Both options seem fine. With this particular hand, I don't mind going smaller, having the ace of clubs, letting him float a bit wider, and obviously a snap call versus the jam. And in this case, he does actually have queens, one of the only hands that beats us, but I expect him to also jam king jack here, queen jack here, maybe a random flush draw that we're doing really well against, especially with the ace of clubs here. So never really folding here. I don't think, well, definitely some players, but most players, I guess, would just call or raise smaller with 6s or 4s. So we're only really losing 2 queens here in this situation. Pocket 8s here against an open and a call. I will just put in the squeeze. Overcalling again wouldn't be a mistake here, but I'd rather do that once they open a bit smaller. And now that there's more dead money out there, I prefer squeezing and playing in position. I don't think they 4-bet bluff enough, and for this sizing, you know, we just have a very easy fold. Don't need to do anything fancy here. Against a normal 4-bet sizing, we could consider calling, although in this position at 10-NL is probably also better to just fold. Another reason to why this ace-jack is such a fist bump call is that queens are obviously 4-bet getting it in quite often pre-flop. The jack-7 just waiting, because I could still open blind v blind. Ten deuce is a bit loose, but with a recreational I would also be opening from the button. Same with the 7-8, we'll be opening blind v blind if you get the chance to. 6 deuce suited against the min open, probably in theory still a fold, but often a recreational, so I'd rather play a bit looser and get involved. King queen against this large, just a fold in these positions, and then also you're folding the flop. Just expect to have too many profitable bluffing opportunities post flop, so I think it's just about fine. But if you would want to just fold that pre, definitely fine too. But be more careful if you have a hand like 4 deuce suited, that definitely has to defend against the min open from the cutoff. Very often when player just study one open raise sizing, it's quite hard to, or it's quite important to also learn how to defend against smaller or larger sizes. So on the right hand side we just start with a small c-bet, and on the right hand side I'll go for a squeeze. 5 is not great, he definitely has 5x, but we also have 5x. We can pretty much range bet this board, and having a heart in our hand, fine with barreling here on the turn, folding some ace-high floats, putting some pressure on pocket pairs. And now that the heart completes on the river, I think I'm still bluffing. I don't mind going for small sizing here, targeting mainly a jack, maybe a very weak queen when I go for this sizing. But mainly saying I have something like aces, kings, maybe ace queen that doesn't want to put in much more money in the middle, and a queen is a flush is gonna raise anyway, so I can take the size for my flushes in full house as well, and now reshove over the top. Left hand side I'm actually gonna check back and allow him to bluff into me, and here I'm just folding. I'm mainly just targeting a jack X there. Maybe a hand like king 10, ace 10 here that would fold on the river. He checks to me again on the turn. So now we have the option of either betting now or checking to then check back to bluff catch on the river. I guess I like that a bit better. Now we have a very comfortable call and very comfortable value bet. Should he check to us again, goes for like a bit larger than block. Can be value raised to see get caught by hand like king, queen. It's close for sure. Don't expect him to have many traps in the sizing. Problem is he still has ace 8, ace 9, ace 10. We should only be shoving. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do something super exploitative and raise small instead. Getting caught behind like king, queen, queen, jack. Okay, but yeah, it might have been a bit too thin, especially if he flats ace king pre-flop. Probably here the better line than to just call. Maybe this is a bit too fancy, reading a bit too much into his sizing there. But if I expect him to not have, well, he's also betting a lot of his ace-x on the flop or on, sorry, on the turn. Like I expect him ace queen, ace jack, ace 10 to mainly bet those hands. And so then my bluff raise only loses, my value raise only loses against ace 8, ace 9. Then I think it's more justifiable if he's gonna have a lot of king, queen, queen, jack in this line. Maybe sometimes even jacks or 10s. That gets sticky now. Here we decided to start off with a small c-bet. Gonna be checking back my pair, looking to bluff catch rivers. Here again we have a situation where we could maybe even bluff raise, but that would take more something like, sorry, bluff raise a value raise with a hand like king jack, maybe ace jack, and this hand I think just calls, and he's the absolute nuts. Okay, definitely important to take note of that. Multi-way in a board that's good for them. I will just start with a check behind, and on the right hand side we'll defend. Very quick check, so now I'm gonna start to delay bluff this hand. Gonna go for small sizing, mainly wrapping a one pair hand. And probably barrel again on the turn. Sorry, on the river. On the right hand I'll just fold. Just wrapping a pair that I check back, trying to make him fold ace size, which I think will float on the turn because they have a gut shot as well as, you know, obviously having ace high showdown value. Pocket trees I will call, queen 8 I will open. These pocket trees are just gonna place a check call on the turn, but probably a bit too thin to value bet, so I think I'll just go for another check call here. Although against some really passive guys, I wouldn't hate going for a small block bet here. The ace 3, I don't mind going either way. We'll just put in the 4-bet, stick with a bit more aggressive theme, sizing up a little bit because we're deeper. Seems about right. And now here I'm just debating which size is best. I see just a snap fold. Don't think checking is too great when our opponent checks back twice. He's gonna have a range that is just gonna fold a lot. Mainly he's gonna be somewhat inelastic with his bluff catches, so I don't mind overbet. I also don't mind going a small bet, trying to induce something from over cards, maybe ace highs with one diamond, ace king, ace queen that decided to call so far, and now feel like they need to bluff against the small block bet sizing. King 6 here, multi-way. Definitely want to be a bit more careful, so I wouldn't c-bet everything. But I think my hand would still be fine. And now we face a small donk. Again, they're going to be quite bluff heavy, so I'm going to start off with a raise here. It's going to be very often a pair, a weak pair, like a deuce, a 7, weak pocket pairs, maybe a weak ace sometimes. Once we hit the pair, we have the option to continue bluffing. If you hit an 8, I would definitely check back. Hitting a 6 doesn't have too much showdown value. The question is, do we want him to fold an ace here, or do we rather check this down? Still beat 5s, 4s. Therefore, I think it's fine to call. Yeah. And if I had like king 3 and turned at 3, then it maybe makes more sense to just keep barreling. Left hand side I go for a small bet, and here in the river obviously we have a very comfortable value raise. Getting check raised on the left hand table, we'll just call with any pair on the board. At this point he mainly has an ace, and I just hope he's not good enough to fold that after we check back on the turn. And on the left hand side, the 5 improves a lot of his bluffs, like hand like 5-4 or 8-6 now gets there. We're gonna have a lot of pair plus draws, 7-8, 7-6, diamonds, king X that we can call instead. So this hand is just gonna be a fold. King 6 opening against a potential weaker player, and I'm just gonna start with a small range bet on this flop. Pocket 4, so I'm just folding. Opening up the king queen off. 9-9-8. Paired board that should have a checking range, but at these stakes I prefer to just go for a small c-bet, not expecting enough check raises. 6s I would 3-bet, but now with a 3-bet in there I'm not gonna call 4-bet, so just folding. And we see a call on the turn here that improves his range probably a bit more. I'd barrel if I had a 10 or jack in my hand, so king 10, king jack, or at least if I have a club. So this hand is just gonna be checking behind. Now he snap checks quickly. I think I'm actually gonna go for an overbet, wrapping a pocket, an overpair that I checked back on the turn, given that turn it's a bit more connected. Deep I will be calling here, and also because he snap checked, can have a lot of ace high hands. This is a bit close, but we're deeper, so I don't mind calling this. Interesting board. I'm definitely gonna have queens, so let's see, I'm gonna have 8 and 7 sometimes that he doesn't have against a small bet. Seems to be a regular, so I will just call this with the backdoor straight flush draw. Against the small sizing, definitely float here. The ace is not great. Lots of the V from floating this hand is gonna be in bluffing when the turn comes. A 9, a 10. Interestingly, he checks, so he definitely can have traps here. He should be barreling a lot, so I'm not gonna attack this too much. If he has kings or jacks, we also block those. So I think the best way is just checking and being quite cautious when he checks here. I think he's gonna have quite a few traps here. It'll be disgusting if he checks again on the river. And now I think we do just fold. I just don't see the bluffs here when the ace comes in on the turn. But I think against very tight opponents you can also fold pre-flop, but given the sizing that we're deeper, I don't mind the call, and then flop is very standard a call. And once the turn doesn't come an ace or a king, I think we can bluff him off quite often in this spot. Here opening the queen 9 with the recreational and the big blind is loose, but it should be alright. King 9, jack 9 would be usually a bit better, but I think it's fine. So when the turn card comes and he's supposed to basically range bet and checks, don't think those are the spots that you want to be to redline warrior and just randomly blasting, because his checking range is likely going to be too strong. So I'd rather just check and realize my equity in a situation where I should actually just face a bet and have to fold. Another small donk. Lots of these small donks, again, not really respecting them, just gonna straight up raising. And then here also gonna be forwarding here. We're a bit not that deep, so I'm not gonna make it too large. But there's a cold caller, so I'm sizing up, and here just kind of preparing to go all the way with this hand on a board where I have so many strong hands, and he's pretty capped. Kind of saying, if you let out with a 3, a jack, or even a weak ace, punish him for that. So really important to go after these small donks, especially on boards where opponent's not really allowed to donk, or it doesn't make any sense. Queen 9 here, again a bit looser, but hey, We're saying we're playing aggressive this time, ISOing the 5-4, and we even get rewarded. Dynamic board against, I think this guy is a bit more passive from what we've seen with a lot of checks, so don't mind checking to check raise. Don't mind just going for a larger bet, trying to get the money in. And on this hand, right hand side, we about to time out, but checking is fine here, and then just check calling. The flush coming in is not great, but if I don't expect him to bluff enough, I think the best line is to continue firing on the turn, sizing down a little bit because of the flush. Here we say small bet on the flop. We face a half-pot barrel on the turn. It's not great, to be honest. I think we call another one though against this sizing, although there's a lot of better cards that have that can potentially improve, and most rivers are going to be ugly. Goes half-pot again. What are you saying you have, my friend? So on the flop you say you have 9, on the turn you say you have a jack, and the river you say suddenly you have a queen but not a flush. I think I'm actually gonna call down all the way here. Yeah, his line is just not making any sense. Even though this river is obviously horrible, but yeah, we just see the beauty of checking to recreational and letting them do their things. 7-5 against the 3x open is just going to be a fold. So yeah, as we said, on the flop he's saying he is a 9, on the turn a jack, and the river he's saying he is a queen, which sure he can have sometimes, but for this sizing he's also going to have, he's to be careful not to be over bluffing, and yeah, a flush, a 2 pair would very often size up, especially on this turn. Think hand, a jack or a stronger hand would very often size up, and then those hands don't really, and the thin value bets from the turn don't value bet on this river. So unless he's going thin, he might even check back a queen sometimes. So I think calling that's fine. Obviously we're gonna lose quite some time against queen jack here, or queen 9 or jack 9. That's definitely gonna happen. Here against a cut of small, against a cut of flatter, we can start with a check. The 6 and the 3 are somewhat better for him, but you can also start with a small c-bet with a plan of mainly check calling later. Still a king high board, which is decent enough for me. Jack 2 is just gonna be folding. Yeah, we had some interesting hands here today. Definitely could have gone either way in some of them. So let me know if you would have played something differently. I hope I had enough time to explain all my thoughts there without timing out. So yeah, let's play a couple more hands and then sit out next big blind. Because it seems like one table. Okay, no, there we are. So yeah, let's sit out next big blind. Opening the jack 6 suited from the button. Getting a call. 10-6-4. Board where you can go either way between c-betting or checking. Let's play a check back line. I think is an interesting one to do as well. The main advantage of this line is that it's very easy for the big man to overbluff and randomly kind of bet hands that should maybe be checking. So against normal-ish sizings, our plan is just to call down here. And yeah, once we face a check, our hand is an easy check back. And he had 8-9, which definitely a fine hand to be bluffing, especially having a club, giving up on the river, all good. The issue is just that he has a lot of hands like this, right? He has 9-8, he has 7-8, he has random 5x, queen 5, queen 3 suited, maybe his ace 3, ace 5 suited, maybe he thinks queen 9, queen jack, queen 9, those type of hands. It's quite easy for him to suddenly have too many bluffs, and if players don't control the frequency and don't, use a sizing that's under pot, it's quite easy for us to just call any bluff catch after we check there. So that's the idea here. All right, I think this is it. Some interesting hands. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, Hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Bye bye.